Welcome to the channel. This is the first part in my Seven Crosses series for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. Now, before we get into the introduction, a couple of points. The first one is that any of you who've watched the setup video be aware that a certain amount of new infrastructure has appeared. I will go through it in detail, but the reason I built this is that I started recording this video and I literally spent nearly an hour setting the farm up. So I thought, well, there's absolutely no point in wasting your time setting with this infrastructure stage. So that's why I decided to retain it. The second point is that most of this video, in fact, probably all of the video, will consist of planning and laying out buildings. Hopefully we may get to the point where we might initialize and build the first few buildings. So be aware of that. And the final point is that I'm aware many people don't like long introductions. So there will be a timestamp appearing now for anyone who wants to jump forward into the gameplay. Anyone who's decided to remain, welcome. This introduction will consist of 3 parts. In the first part, I'm just going to give you the backstory for the series. The second part, I will be giving a very brief overview of the map because I think that will support the actual background story. But if any of you are interested in a more detailed overview of the map, there will be a link in the video description that will take you to a video which will give you a bit more of a deeper understanding of the map. Finally, I will give a brief overview of the hard mode rules. I won't go into great depth about them, plus a couple of extra rules which I've added for my own self-interest. That out of the way, let's just get down into the backstory for this map. Now, for any of you who haven't watched a setup video, you'll see that the start date is 1947, which is 13 years before the default start date of 1960. And the story is we've been put in charge of a Labour battalion who've been given the task of rebuilding a region that's been devastated by war and famine. In fact, the 7 towns that were in this region have been completely flattened, and the Labour battalion is given the task of rebuilding this region so that the wealth of resources in the region can flow back into the Soviet Republic. So that is the general backstory. And of course, because we're in a post-war era, life is very tough. So we're going to start with a very basic startup position. And in fact, what we're going to have to do is bootstrap up our entire construction industry from virtually nothing. And to help us in the process, because there is a shortage of excavators in the post-war era, the Republic has very kindly given us 3 old US excavators, which we managed to retrieve after the US Army left after the war. So these will be our starting excavators, and then I think in 2 years' time, we finally get the ability to purchase our own excavators. Because this is the post-war era, we're going to have to really work on being creative with the way we set up our transport links as well. So that's the general backstory to this series, and I'm just going to move on to the map. And if I open up the map and we click on the name tags here, you will see the locations of the towns that we're going to be expected to rebuild. Each one of them is marked with a dirt mud road cross and a religious building. I think this is a medium cathedral. Now, if you decide to play the map yourself, the churches aren't compulsory, but from the point of view of this scenario, the churches are to be retained, and there's also a supplementary condition around these areas here that the original towns are to be rebuilt with traditional style buildings. So these are not allowed to be massive prefab tower block areas here. We may put them on out in the suburb. Now, if we turn the names off, and if I draw the map up large, I'll just show the resources. Now, the resources are intentionally plentiful for a reason I'll explain in a minute, but they've been deliberately placed so that I can work on developing my logistics skills. And another supplementary objective of this series is to try and get the population at least over 100,000, possibly to 150,000, with a self-sustaining economy. For that reason, the resources are deliberately generous, but as you can see, they've all been placed in positions that should provide a logistical challenge. So, for example, here the coal has been placed on the bottom section of the map. That means that to provide heating all the way across the map, we're going to have to set up a network that will move the coal to the various locations. It's also worth noting that all the main gravel production is down in the bottom of the map as well. So we're going to have to set up a fairly comprehensive gravel distribution network as well. And I think that is probably enough on the map. If I come back to here, what we're going to do now is just move on to talk about hard mode rules. Now, for anyone who is new to the game, hard mode rules is a set of rules that have been drafted. They're not part of the base game. And if any of you are interested in the detail of the hard mode rules, I will put a link in the video description for you to go and take a look at them. And what the hard mode rules do is they specify certain conditions that you've got to meet to play the game, and also certain vehicles and buildings which are technically required. Although now I'm going to be playing hard mode rules, but of course I can't stick strictly to them. One, because of the requirements for recording for YouTube, and partly because of the way I want to start this scenario off. So I'm going to give a fairly liberal interpretation of the initial startup restrictions of hard mode, but as I build things, I'll explain the relationship to hard mode rules. But there are a few rules I will be adhering to. That is that if any of you follow my channel, you'll be aware that I like to build everything anyway, and that's a key to hard mode. The second one is that beyond by purchasing the fuel in the first gas station for a reason which I'll explain when we build the gas station, everything has to be purchased from the customs office here and then moved around the map, which I find is a very interesting challenge. Now, another condition of hard mode is the fact that you're unable to purchase prefabs from the customs office. In fact, you've got to manufacture them yourselves. This obviously puts a constraint on the buildings you can put down, and you can't build prefabs. And in some ways, I've gone a bit purist on this, because one of the recommended buildings for hard mode start actually requires prefabs, but I won't be using that. And of course, the other big constraint caused by prefabs is the fact, if we come in here, you see we can't build the concrete based railway system. All we can build is the low speed wood based track, which to be honest is a waste of time. So that is one of the key constraints of prefabs. So moving on, the hard mode also specifies a vehicle type you can use at the beginning. It's called the Praga vehicle set, which is a mod which you can subscribe to. Now, I can't actually use that because I'm starting in 1947. Now, the Praga vehicles don't come available until I think about 1952, 1953, or possibly even later. So what I've had to do is come up with my own vehicle set, which is going to be interesting. It's got a new mod in by Novu with horse-drawn carts as well, so we're going to have a little bit of fun with that. So I think that covers hard mode. Now what I'm going to do is talk about an extra restriction that I put on myself, and this comes from a conversation I had in my comments several weeks ago. What we're going to have is a single vehicle depot here, which all vehicles to be used on the map will be purchased from there, and then the vehicles will have to move to their respective location. The only possible exception to that rule will be farm vehicles, and the reason for that is that I've did a little bit of test play, and some farm vehicles, well, you can't load them on open holes, so they take a long time to get where they're going. Also, one or two farming vehicles, when the distance is long, don't seem to be able to detect the farm they're going, despite the fact you tell them to move to the farm, and then they just sit in the vehicle depot. So there is a potential issue with that as well. So plan is that when I've built this first farm, we'll try and move the farming vehicles to the farm, and then when we build other farms, what we're going to have to do is possibly buy them in the farms themselves until such time as we can make our own vehicles. And of course, that's one of the hard mode options which I've forgotten completely about. That is the fact that you can purchase your own vehicles, road vehicles. To have trains, ships and helicopters and planes, you've got to build them yourself. And I think putting in the depot restrictions are really going to push me to try and start building my own vehicles as early as possible. Well, that's what I really want to do. And I think that is enough of an introduction. So what I'm going to do now is just pause briefly while I put my headset on. Before we get into laying out the labour camp, a quick couple of things. First thing is welcome to anyone who skipped the introduction. I want to emphasise that this video will consist mainly of planning. I can't see me getting to the point where we're going to be able to populate the labour camp and get things up and running. Apologies for that. And I suppose I better explain what's going on here, and probably the best way to start is that this was the result of the first attempt at this part 1 video. And what actually happened is the video went to about an hour and 20 minutes, just simply laying out the power supply, this marshalling yard here, and this half a farm is probably the best way to describe it, because the actual farm itself is here. And the reason for laying this farm out is that we have to, in order to make money, we're going to try and make alcohol and food. And therefore what I wanted was a farm that could supply those needs, because of course one of the conditions of hard mode is that if we're going to sell alcohol and possibly food, although food will probably use to feed the population, we've got to raise crops. So I wanted to lay this farm out, but we're not going to bring it into action into 1948. In fact, it's going to be a bit of a tall order. We get it even working by then, but I just wanted to allocate the space. And this consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 large fields and 6 medium fields, and the plan is to duplicate it over this way to create effectively a very big farm. The only main concern is this field here. This may have to disappear because there's only a very narrow slot here for the road and rail to go through. And talking about rail, I better come down and explain why I've built a marshalling yard here. And it stems from the fact that I've only got 2 connections to the Soviet Republic, and one of them is up here. If I show you here, this one is going to be on the other side of a bridge. Therefore, it's going to take a long time to get up here and also build the bridge. You can see it's quite a long distance. It's going to be quite a challenge. That means that this border crossing is going to be our chief connection for both exports and imports. And what I want to do is, one, make sure that I got enough space for trains to come in and out. And more importantly, I wanted to create a marshalling yard so that I can get trains up to, I think it's 200 meters is what I planned this for. I come in here and just show you, I think if we come, yeah, we can get up to about 200 meters. And what I've done is we got connections to all 3 platforms, and I think it's 4 tracks here. And that means that I can have 7 trains, 3 unloading, 4 waiting to unload, and then we got a nice open track to take the trains away. So that means I could make this border crossing really busy with respect to both imports and exports, which is exactly what I wanted to do. We'll just talk a bit about the power supply, because what I've done is I've used a couple of mods to get this set up, because I didn't want to draw power from this connector here, because one of the downsides is if you put a connector onto here and then just put a power supply in, the power doesn't move through the connector. So any power you draw off here will always have to be supplied from the outside. So what I wanted to do is have quite a strong connector, and I've actually used some mods for this. If I show you the power transform, I've got this mod here, and this is a 4-way. That means I can send high power this way, and eventually we possibly will have pylons running through here to supply our coal and steel industry up that direction. Yeah, I also wanted to keep an option to run power into here, because our first major town is going to be up here above the labour camp. And then of course I also wanted a power connection to go this way to service this side of the map, because again, I can't remember, I know it seems a bit odd, I don't think I've actually got, yeah, I've got a power connection over here from the Soviet Republic, but possibly eventually, because we've got coal over here, what we will do is have a town over here, and we'll probably have a coal-fired power station tucked up in this corner. Well, I suppose I could talk a little bit about the overall plan, and probably the best way to describe it is in the coal reserve in the bottom right is going to supply both the construction industry and a power plant, and then the coal and iron on the right hand side is going to be my steel production area, and I want to build this up pretty large, so we're probably talking multiple coal mines, probably at least 2 steel mills, possibly 3. And then in this area I certainly want to have the road and rail vehicle production as well. And then what we'll do is we'll expand out this way for all the other industries. And I think that's enough of an introduction. Let's just get down to laying out the labour camp. The labour camp is going to be in this corner here. And what I'm going to be doing is using some buildings. I first saw them with Aleki's Alaska's series, and I really like them. But that's what we're going to use. Now I know many people will actually say that these aren't the true spirit of the hard mode, but I think from the perspective of what I want to do in this series, it's going to make sense. I think what we're going to do is just going to turn on the grid. I think what I'd like is to put a footpath across the top here. And the reason I'm putting a footpath in is the fact that I don't want too many footpath connections going onto this road. I want to kind of control that process. So I think if we can come there and kind of sneak you around to like that, and it means that when I put these houses in here, you can see I get that connection. I don't want that one on this one. I think this one is 14 workers, but we're going to go with the 35 workers. We're going to start in this. I want to leave a little bit of gap here in case I want to run pipes or anything down here. So we'll start in about there. If I can get this lined up, we line these guys up a little bit of a smidge. I think if we put you there, and what I want to do is come across all houses. Of course, this being a labour camp, it's going to have a certain degree of symmetry with it. The reason I'm going for this is that I need to find out where the centre road's going to be, and so we're kind of the road into the construction site is going to be about here. And so if I take out the footpath now, we'll just trim you back to there, and I'm just going to pick up. I want to have enough gap here for another footpath coming down this way. Of course, then. And we're just going to build this road down like that. I'm going to take you probably all the way through. See, can I get... Yeah, there's a snapping point just there, which causes the road to kink a little bit. Don't think I can fix it. Let me just see. I don't want to be too obsessed with the grid connection, but we can maybe just... that explains it. A little bit of a road connection there. And we'll just hook you through there. Take off that bit there. Doubt very much if I'm going to be building anything in this area. I want to keep this area relatively open. And of course, what I want to emphasize is this is my initial, you can say, bootstrap construction area. So eventually this area will become quite open. And what I'm thinking is that in the long term, this will become an area of trees, which we will use for both heating the city, which will be up here, and also forestry, log-related production. Well, that's the theory anyway. I think I'd like, again, we're just going to put a footpath down here. Curve. Trim that back. I like to keep all the number of nodes to a minimum, and then we'll do exactly the same again. Now I would like to use the clone tool here, but of course you can't clone incomplete buildings, which is a bit of a pain. But of course I'm not going to be building all these buildings, because if you imagine each of these is 35 people, and what I'll be looking for is a starting population of about 208, around 200. And so we have probably 105 here, 105 there. So what we're going to do is put in a double row, and I think we're put a path across like that, and put you there to there to there, there, and of course we'll put a link footpath. I'm going to leave that footpath just for the moment, and we're back to here. Do exactly the same as we did last time on the other side. We'll go across 4 like that. course, there's a slight difference now, but we'll be okay. 3, 4, like that. And that means we can extend this. Okay, just trim this back. Make sure we got the connection, and we're on this footpath here. Again, we'll just leave that, and I think we can hate it when it does that. And then what we'll do is we'll put in another row of houses. And again, I'd like it to be, I want them tight, but at the same time I don't want them really packed in. So we go to there. Move over a little bit. I mean, that would be nice. I think we can afford the occasionally slightly wonky footpath. And you're gonna go in about there. Hopefully you will connect up above, like, and you up that, and then we'll just hook this to there, to there, to there, to there, and then we'll bring another footpath across like that. And this time we can connect these through, because we're kind of approaching the center of the labor camp now. So we'll just hook you through, like, we'll tidy this up later on. We've now got to the center, and what I want to do here is like put in the utility buildings. One thing I do need to look at is the power supply. Thinking about putting the power supply about here. No, actually we may have to put it in here, because I don't think that will reach down once we put in the utility buildings. I want to just put in a single power substation to get started, because I do want to save a bit of some of my dollars. And I think what I'm going to do now is we're going to put in the shops. We get to the mod. Now in this series I want to try something a bit different, because if any of you follow my series, I've had a bit of an obsession with putting down moles, and what I want to do is go back to basics to a certain point and put separate shops in for the, how can you say, for food and clothes, simply because I've got a feeling that I might get a better supply system by using trucks rather than to deliver to the shops, and actually allowing them to park in spaces. And I think by separating the roles, I will indirectly get more parking spaces. Well, that's the theory anyway. What I do want though is, if we go to cinema, we've got this building here, which is quite big. So what I'm thinking is, if this fits in, say about there, we're talking about, just trim this back a bit. We'll trim this back to about here, and then if let me just find the cinema. If I put you in there, what we're talking about is a mud road out there, aren't we? Is that right? Let's just double check this. I want to get this right. I want to keep everything reasonably tight, but at the same time I just want to have enough space to put things in. Yeah, that will work. So, and then what would, so let me just take you out, and then we'll extend the mud road to here. So that gives me the slot there. I mean, and we'll just put in the, we'll put the food shop on this side. course, we're going to have a road. It's got to mess about. I want the shop in far enough so that we got a road that we could do with an excavator when we upgrade it. If we put the kind of food shop there, leave a little bit of space there. Not that. What was this? Let me just. One of the problems with this mod is the Cyrillic alphabet. It's 5324. Yeah. What I'm going to do is rename this. Call you labor, food, and then we'll come in here, and we're just going to pick up the clothes shop. Now I'm not going to connect any of these to warehouses or anything like that. I think what we can have is a separate little road running maybe up a little bit further like that, and maybe just squish it in a bit like that. And of course what we're going to need is a bus station. Okay. Let's trim this back. Actually, let's just extend the mud road down to here, like that. And then I mean, I could use this standard bus station. So here's a question for you while I'm putting this: has anyone created a bus stop that actually uses mud or gravel roads so that you don't have to use asphalt to put them in place? I mean, if such a bus stop exists, feel free to chuck it in the comments, because I would really like to be able to build one that doesn't need asphalt. I think if we kind of put a few in there. What's going on there? Be kidding me, game. Why don't you like... Oops. Okay, sometimes... Oops, let's try and tidy this up a little bit. I don't want too many nodes. So I'll take you through like that. Let me just take the snapping off, see if this will make a difference. Oh, that's a bit better. And what I'd like is for you to come there. Hopefully you will... Yeah, it's kind of squeaks back a little bit, but... no. Cancel. So that gives me the... call you labor. Close. Now we're not going to be using electronics, and I think probably the best thing to do now is actually put in the power supply. If I could get it in, if I can get it in about here, so, because we need the power supply to be in the center here somehow. Just see if I can. Ooh, can't build because of infrastructure. Zoom in really closely. I'd really like to get this in this corner here. I think we can go with that. And we're going to use this 2.35 megawatts because we're going to be drawing a lot of power off here to start with. Just put in the footpath from there. I think this footpath can come down and actually connect with the road here, like that. And then we'll come here. Oops, nope, I don't want high voltage, I want ordinary voltage. And then you can, I think if we push you up, how far up can we go? You split about there, and we can come, and look at that. I push my luck a little bit, about as far as we can go, and then you can go into there. Because if you drag power lines over roads, you can get them to space out a little bit. I suppose I could now set these to purchase with dollars, because these are going to be the ones that we're actually going to build. So we're just going to put that there. So we've now got the 2 food shops and the bus platform, which is going to be quite important for moving workers around. Next thing I need is the school and the kindergarten. The school is, I mean, the school's quite, because we've got power set supply here. I think what we'll do is we'll have the school on this side. I can squeeze that in. Really, wish there was a way. I think this is a regular complaint when you're planning, is the actual information screen. So we're gonna put the school just about there, and then we're gonna put the kindergarten on the other side. Actually, oh wow, it'd be really great to put the kindergarten there. Maybe over a little bit like that, because I would like a footpath to come down alongside the shop to make the connection. So we'll put the school about there, and then we can drop a footpath, maybe just so that it comes in there. Be nice if that would connect, but I always get a bit suspicious when it floats over something like that. We'll just take you up there. Of course, we can bring these through now. Connect you up to there, you to there. I think we'll just sort this out a bit. It's a bit too messy. If you can come there. Actually, what we could do is come off here a little bit. If you come the other way. Sometimes if you come the other way, yeah, we're just going to have to take that little bit of a dog leg there. We'll trim you off. I'd like to get a footpath between these 2 buildings, like that. This won't connect, but it will connect. You can come up to there, you can come to there, and ideally I would like you to connect to there and there. What we'll do is we'll put you there to, it's that connection again. See where you can drag over. So you haven't really got a connection there. In fact, I don't think I need a connection there. So we'll just take you out, and we've got a node in there. So we'll just take that out again. So we've now got the. And to be completely honest, my Cyrillic is useless. So what we're going to do is we'll call you Como. Hinder. It's quite important I do name these, because we're not going to build these as part of the initial upload. Well, I'll be building these manually, so I need to know which one I'm actually building. Homo school. And I say we got the 2 shops, we got the kindergarten there. We need to get the university in, so that's the next thing we need to on a plan. I'd like to get the university somewhere in here. I suppose that is a bit optimistic. And maybe we need to put the university out, say about here. If we can be nice, brilliant if I could get it to line up with the footpath here. To control a little bit. If we get the university. Actually, we've got a little bit of a space here. See if I can use this space before we put the university in. Because the university doesn't have to cover the whole construction site. So we come in here. We need sport. We need culture. Now, there is a kind of culture building here. Wow, that's pretty big. But it doesn't really fit. I would like a small theatre, but it's not going to fit there, is it? So we're probably gonna have to put the small got a pool hall. Yeah, we're gonna put a pool hall in. I don't know how that actually comes for culture, but it does probably fits in well with the concept of a labor camp. Maybe we'll put the culture center over here like this. Again, we will be, what I will probably do is we'll build, what's the cheapest? How much would this cost me? This would cost me 10,000. This cost me 6,000. So what we'll probably do is buy the pool hole with dollars. No, well, we could build the culture center and then build this manually. And then we'll just trim this back a little bit like that. Then we'll put the university here. We'll just tuck the university like that. Drag it down a little bit that way. And we'll put the on a mud road on a footpath like that. And we're just, again, just going to take these through here. Like, going to need to connect up you. Yeah. Got some connections there. Let me just see what the coverage is. Yeah. But that's the university. The school, the coverage is nice and rock solid. Oh no, the kindergarten. The school is rock solid, which is exactly what I want. The coverage for the university will spread over time. Now, the only thing left we got to build is some sport. I've got a little bit of a slot here. Sports playground. We could put the playground in here. The only downside with the playground is the fact that it won't work very well in winter, but this is a labor camp. It's, you know, life's got to be a little bit tough. We'll just connect you up to there, to there. The other thing we also need to put in, nearly forgot, is I'll find the clinic, hospital. I think this is the clinic here. Certainly got to get the clinic in. We'll put the clinic here. We kind of squashed in a little bit on this side. Be okay. What's the coverage for the clinic? Oops. Yeah, it's a little bit shaky. But I think we could probably fix that with footpath through there. Probably you up and you connect to there like that. If that improves the... Yeah, that gives us a bit more coverage for the clinic. Again, we'll be building the clinic over time. And we'll put a couple more buildings down here. So what I think just what I've got to do now is just put in another sports venue over here. And I think we'll put something in that's actually indoors as well. Sport. A bowling alley, which we could put down here. Something like that. Bit big. What on earth is this? Gym. That's not bad. I mean, we are... If I put a gym in... I mean... Yeah, we can put a gym in just about there. Like that. Oops. We can put... Just tuck a gym on this side here. And that will give me, like, duplicate coverage here. Oops, don't want that. We can, then we'll just drop a path in there. We could just do a connection like that. See how far out the gym will go. That's reasonable. And I think just to wind this area up, what I want to do now is just put in some more kind of accommodation down here, about another 4 buildings, so that we can And what the idea is that the residents down here will provide the support for the shop and the buildings, and then these will provide the services that I need for other things. That's the theory anyway. A residential, again, we're going to stick with maybe down here where, actually no, I think we'll stick with we could probably put in, do it that way, that, say for argument's sake, we put, and come in a little bit there, we'll put one in there, and then we can bring a footpath across like that. You can come in possibly like that. You can just squeeze you on that bit there like that, and then we can run another footpath right through like that. You up like that, you there, you can hook to there, you can hook to there, you can hook across like that to keep the number of nodes down, and you can come to there. Right, let me just turn off the wireframe so we can get a look at what, I suppose what I can do now is build this area so I can get a feel for what it looks like. As I say, what I want is a population of around 200. We better choose the buildings that we want to do. Let me just come here, fund the pylons with dollars. We're going to build this house. Everything's going to be built with dollars. You're going to build that with that. That with that. That with that. So that will give me 140 people. This will give me another 100, or space for 140 people. That'd be 280. Now, and we're just going to fund, I think we'll fund you and you to get started. Of course, we need the bus stop, because otherwise we can't run our construction offices. We need the food and or food and clothes. We've got to build the substation. And what else do I want to build from scratch? Food. Part of me says build the sport because it's so cheap anyway. That's the university. We don't want that. We're not going to build the kindergarten or school. Actually, yeah, I think we'll fund the pool hall. Like that. And what's the cost of this? This is going to cost me $10,000. I think we'll bring up the culture because that will keep the happiness up. Because one of the problems I've got is that the actual quality of life in these buildings is quite low, if I remember correctly. So if we come into here, yeah, you can see the quality of the flats is 72%, which is not particularly that good. And I think what we're going to do is just let everything build up. I need to put fund the power, that power connector. We need to fund this power connector and this power connector. Of course, what we're going to need to do is on this point here, we're going to have to allow the import of power. We're actually spending rubles now. So we just pause again. Just give everything. What was this again? Oh, so we're not building the school. We've got power into here now, so everybody's happy. This kind of looks a bit out of place. The rat and the parrot. And what did I build here? I can't remember now. That's the gym. This is the university. Let me just rename this. I call this Nakomo University. And we'll just rename this Nakomo Clinic. here. We'll call you Nicomo Culture Theatre. I don't know if it is a social centre, isn't it? Social. Oops. Oops. Capital in. And here be the bus stop. We got this here. Now the next thing I want to do is go round. I'm just going to reduce the workforce in this area, because I don't want to reduce you down. Now we need to make sure that we only get workers into there. That's minimum anyway. Certainly don't want 10 staff in here. We're going to reduce you right down to 3. Full haul, get you down to 3 as well. You're 2 out of 4. You're 2 out of 4. I think that is it now. So we've now effectively got our accommodation block up. Of course, we haven't finished planning, because the next thing I need to do is, I think I've just made a slight mistake as well. I was going to put a lot more of my construction down here, but of course we've only got the single power supply here. I do need a fire station. It's something I forgot completely about. Fire station. We got a little fire station here. Just make sure it's within range. It's also going to need to be within range of heat. So I think we'll put the fire station there. That'd be right next to the workforce. I'm just going to build that as well. That's going to be quite important. We've got the fire station here, and what I need is a couple of fire trucks, and of course one thing actually, well, we're going to get a couple of fire trucks. There's no American fire trucks, there's only those, so come in here. I mean, we could get wagons, but I think that's just too risky. So we're just going to get a couple of these. Of course, what we're going to have to do is assign them to here. There, like that. And I'm aware time is pushing on, and I'd rather do all the construction as a single unit. So I think just to finish this video off, what I'm going to do is set up the delivery routes for the shops here, because what I'd like to get is resources in here. In fact, just something else I've just realized I need to build. We need a gas station. Let me just see. I think I've got some modded gas stations. Let me just see. Got a really nice gas station here, but that requires prefabs. We got here retro gas station here. Oh, don't like that. We can't use those. Now there is one recommended for the hard mode. I can't remember which one it is offhand, but what I found was when I did some testing on it, it actually was a little bit broken. If you put a fuel truck on the gas station, it would then block other ones coming in. I can't actually remember what it was now. Got a medium refueling station. This is the one. I think this is the one that's recommended. But the problem I found is that if you put a refueling truck on here with wait until unloaded, it just seemed to block everything. So I don't really want to use that. Quite like this middle gas station, but it's got 2 roads on it. Not in out though, is it? It's now that didn't actually have 2 roads in and out. We could live with 2 roads in and out. It's just going to make everything a little bit kind of basic. That's the only problem. Let's have a look. We've got another small one here. Maybe we'll go with you. What's the... Yeah. Well, we got extra small, but I'm always a bit nervous with these through gas stations unless I've played with them properly. And we got an extra small one here. Okay, what's this? Maybe we'll start with an extra small one. I mean, and if we just drop you in there, I mean, what's the? You can store 60 tons of fuel. You've got stations for 2 vehicles. I think I'd rather have something with 4 vehicles actually. Or maybe we'll compromise, but we'll go with this one. It's because it's got stations for 3. Because this is gonna be the core, and we're gonna have a lot of trucks coming in here and refueling. So I think, plus I would like to have 1 slot for the tanker to offload with. So maybe we'll go with this one here, and we're gonna fund this. Well, build this. That's not bad actually. I quite like the look of that. I mean, it looks a bit, I don't know, it's got a corrugated edge, so it's still there. Because what we need to do here is we're going to make our one and only purchase. We're going to do it with dollars, and it's going to be a manual purchase. And I think we're by about 30 tons of fuel. Now this is going to be the one and only manual purchase that we're going to do in the series. And for anyone who does now, for any of you who now, for anyone who's wondering why I need to manually purchase fuel, the problem is that when you buy the, in fact, let's just do it. If you come in here and buy an oil tanker, we'll go with the, I think it's the Tartra's, the one that's got, it's probably, so say for argument, oops, I don't think I can. No, I think a blue vehicle will be okay. Can't change it anyway now, I don't think. Don't think it will. Oh, yes, it can. What I'm gonna, what I was half thinking about is having a convention that all my vehicles that are doing direct deliveries and not in distribution offices, I'm gonna have red, so I can identify them on the road. But if we come in here and put the fuel in here, and what you will see is if I come in here and put that there, and of course wait until unloaded, so it's going to do several trips. Actually, well, before I kick him off to show you what I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to build the construction office. I'd like the construction office here, but at the same time I want to put a heat exchanger. Actually, we could put the construction office. I think we're, because I want the construction office in a position that it can work with the construction industry here, the town up here, but we're going to have to put the heat exchanger in first. And I just want a standard heat exchanger, please. And what I would like ideally is for that to cover the whole of the town. So we're going to put the heat exchanger. Looks like this building here doesn't need heat, which is good. It looks like several of the buildings don't need heat. I'm going to put the heat exchanger there. Of course, we're not going to build that. And then what I'm going to do is put in the construction office. Oops. The construction office. Now, I am going to use a modded construction office, but I'm not going to go the full 32. I'm going to go for 20. And we're going to put the construction office in about here, and of course we need to build that. We need to build this. Cost me enough. We're going to run out of dollars at this rate. Now, what I want to do down here is put another construction office in. I've put a distribution office in here to create a space for this line here, and we've got the road that goes out that way. But what I want to do is put a road construction office down here. We're going to put in a normal construction office here. Ideally, I would like it there, but you can be annoying sometimes, game. Can we get it in there? Just get it in there. But that will then obstruct that. Actually, no, let's put it here. I say this construction office is going to be for the building the roads. This is the reason why I'm going to put it down here rather than up over there, because this is where most of the roads are going to need to be built. And if we can get that kind of squished in there like that, but we're not going to build that. Anyway, digressions aside, I'm just going to build this to speed it up a little bit. Okay, pause the game now. And this is what I was saying, is that I'm just going to get these guys out. You see the fuel truck, instead of going to the border to get the fuel, despite the fact that I told him that that was the way he's going to go, he's going to come all the way up here to refuel, because if you look in here, you can see it's virtually empty. Now the other thing I also want to do is we're just going to move you up to there. These guys are going to take a little while to get there. We might as well get them into position. And then what? and then just to wind up, what I'm going to do is we're going to set up these so that because what I want to do is, while I'm planning, the idea is that while I'm planning this and this area here, I can let the game run for a little while, and these trucks will bring up and bring the clothes and food and meat to these shops. So when the residents move in, they're going to have something to eat straight away, and it avoids having to do the auto purchase. So what we're going to do is we'll do refrigeration first. I don't think I've got much choice with respect to refrigeration. Got this little truck here. Strangely, this guy's a bit faster. What colours have you got? Okay, we'll leave you red. We'll buy the refrigeration truck. Then we need 2 covered holes. One to deliver the clothes and one to deliver the food. What we got here? You have 55. You carry 1.5 tons of food. Probably not. I think from the perspective of the fact that food and clothes is going to be fundamental to keeping the population alive, we're going to find 2 of these. Come here, and you're going to buy meat there. And it's going to be this one here, wait until unloaded. You're going to pick up the food from here, and you're going to come up and drop off there, wait until unloaded. And of course, the first thing these trucks are going to do is come all the way out to the gas station. Oops. Forgotten which one it is now. Right, you don't have a route. Let me just let the game run a little bit. And you're going to pick up clothes. And you're going to come to here. And you're going to wait until unloaded. You can see all the trucks are coming up here. Now they're the fire. These are our fire crew. And of course, the first thing they do is go in and then come out again and grab the fuel. This is the reason why I got about 30 odd tons. You can go through the initial fuel purchase very quickly. Fire trucks here, we've got no firefighters. I think we'll reduce the number of firefighters. Oh, maybe that's a bit too low. But we'll put the number of firefighters down to about 6. So you can see these guys have now fueled up and they're ready to go, full of enthusiasm. We've got our excavators moving. Are you? Oh, you're meant to be going there. And I didn't really launch you. And you see our first trucks coming down and going into the customs shed. This is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you found it interesting. In the next part, we will start putting together our bootstrap construction area. Because if you moment you can see I've got no storage for gravel, steel, bricks, anything. And of course I've got no ability to make concrete and asphalt, and I won't be purchasing it, I will actually be building it, but that will be the subject of the next video. So until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.